There is an image that has haunted the collective imagination of the internet since February 2022. You remember the 40-mile convoy of Russian armor stalled outside Kyiv. You remember the satellite photos of T-72s and BMPs bumper to bumper on the muddy roads of the north. And if you spent any time in the comment sections of defense blogs or Twitter during those weeks, you saw one phrase repeated like a prayer: if only we had the A-10. The Fairchild Republic A-10 Thunderbolt II, known affectionately as the Warthog, is more than an airplane. It is a myth. It is the manifestation of a specific kind of American violence: low, slow, and ugly. It is built around a gun the size of a Volkswagen. It is wrapped in a titanium bathtub designed to shrug off cannon fire. It is the infantryman's guardian angel. And because of that reputation, the question persists. Even now, in 2026, as the war in Ukraine grinds into its fourth year and the lines in the Donbass remain static, people ask, would the A-10 break the deadlock? If we gave the Ukrainian Air Force a squadron of Warthogs, would the trenches clear? Would the Russian logistics chains snap? Would the BRRRT of the GAU-8 Avenger signal the end of the attrition war? To answer this, we have to do something uncomfortable. We have to strip away the meme. We have to look at the A-10 not as a pop culture icon, but as a piece of engineering designed in the 1970s for a war that never happened, trying to survive in a war that effectively makes it obsolete. This is an autopsy of a what-if. To understand why the A-10 is such a controversial topic for Ukraine, you have to understand exactly what it is, and more importantly, what it isn't. The A-10 was born out of the AX program in the late 1960s. The US Air Force looked at the massive Soviet tank armies sitting in East Germany, thousands of T-62s and T-55s poised to rush through the Fulda Gap, and realized they had a problem. They needed a tank buster.
They didn't need it to be fast. In fact, they wanted it slow. Speed makes it hard to acquire targets visually. Speed makes your turn radius huge. They wanted a plane that could loiter over the battlefield, fly under the weather, and deliver massive amounts of ordnance with pinpoint accuracy. The defining feature of the A-10 is the gun. The airframe was literally designed around the GAU-8 Avenger. This is a hydraulically driven 7-barrel 30mm Gatling cannon. It fires 3,900 rounds per minute. The ammunition is the PGU-14B armor-piercing incendiary. These rounds have a depleted uranium penetrator. When they hit a tank, they don't just explode, they sharpen. The uranium is pyrophoric. It self-ignites as it punches through armor, turning the inside of the vehicle into a furnace. In the permissive environments of Iraq and Afghanistan, this gun was devastating. It could shred light armor, technicals, and infantry positions with terrifying efficiency. The other half of the legend is the durability. The pilot sits in a 1,200-pound titanium tub. The flight control systems are triple redundant, 2 hydraulic and 1 mechanical manual reversion system. The engines, 2 General Electric TF-34 turbofans, are mounted high on the fuselage. This does 2 things. It masks their infrared signature from below, shielded by the tail, and it protects them from sucking in debris on rough forward airfields. On paper, this sounds perfect for Ukraine. Ukraine has rough airfields. Ukraine has thousands of Russian tanks. Ukraine has a need for close air support. But there is a critical flaw in this logic. The A-10 was designed to fight the Soviet Union in 1980. It was not designed to fight the Russian Federation in 2026. The war in Ukraine is fundamentally different from the wars where the A-10 became a legend. In Desert Storm, the US coalition achieved air supremacy in days. In Afghanistan and Iraq, the Taliban and insurgents had no radar, no SAMs, and very few MANPADS, man-portable air defense systems. The A-10 could fly at 10,000 feet, orbit the target, and pick its shots at leisure. Ukraine is a non-permissive environment. It is arguably the most dangerous airspace in the history of warfare. Russian doctrine relies heavily on ground-based air defense. They don't just rely on fighters to protect their troops, they rely on a layered umbrella of missiles. 1. High-altitude, long-range, the S-400 Triumph and S-300 V4. These systems can engage targets up to 400 kilometers away. They force Ukrainian aircraft to fly in the weeds, below 100 feet, to use the curvature of the Earth to hide from radar. 2. Medium range, the Buk M3, highly mobile, lethal against maneuvering targets. 3. Short range, SHORAD, the Tor M2 and Pantsir S1. These are designed specifically to shoot down low-flying aircraft, helicopters, and even drones. 4. The MANPADS threat, the Igla S and Verba. Every Russian infantry platoon has a guy with a tube on his shoulder. This is the kill zone. To use the GA-8 gun, an A-10 has to fly in a straight line at roughly 300 knots toward the target. It has to get within 4,000 feet, about 1.2 kilometers, to be effective against armor. In Ukraine, flying in a straight line at 1,000 feet altitude within 1 kilometer of a Russian trench is suicide. You are well within the range of the Pantsir cannons. You are within the range of the Verba MANPADS. You are arguably within range of heavy machine gun fire. The A-10's armor is designed to stop 23mm rounds. It is not designed to stop a supersonic surface-to-air missile with a 15-kilogram fragmentation warhead. We don't have to guess what would happen to the A-10 in Ukraine. We have a direct comparison flying right now. The Sukhoi Su-25 Frogfoot. The Su-25 is the Soviet equivalent of the A-10. It is a twin-engine, armored, subsonic ground attack jet. Both Ukraine and Russia fly them, and both sides have lost them in droves. Because the airspace is so lethal, Su-25 pilots in Ukraine, on both sides, rarely do gun runs. They rarely do precision dives. Instead, they use a tactic called lofting or toss bombing. They fly low, 20 feet off the deck, speed up, pull the nose up to 30 degrees, fire a salvo of unguided rockets, S-13s or S-8s, into the air, and immediately turn and pop flares. The rockets fly in a ballistic arc and land somewhere. It is essentially flying artillery. It is inaccurate. It is inefficient. It is done purely to survive. If you give Ukraine A-10s, they would be forced to fly them exactly like Su-25s. They would be lobbing rockets from 5 miles away. And if you are just lobbing rockets, you don't need a titanium bathtub or a heavy Gatling gun. You need a truck with a launch rail. Using an A-10 for indirect rocket fire is like using a scalpel to chop wood. You can do it, but you are ruining the tool. Supporters of the A-10 will argue it's not just about the gun, it's a missile truck. This is a valid point. The A-10C, the modern variant, can carry the AGM-65 Maverick. The Maverick is a heavy air-to-ground missile. It has optical, infrared, or laser guidance. It has a range of roughly 13 to 15 miles, 22 kilometers. In theory, an A-10 could pop up from behind a tree line, lock onto a Russian tank 10 miles away, fire a Maverick, and duck back down. But here is the catch. To lock a Maverick, you need to see the target. The A-10 sensors are good, but they are optical IR. In the smoke, fog, and clutter of the Donbass, identifying a camouflaged T-90 from 10 miles away while flying at 50 feet is incredibly difficult. To get a lock, the pilot has to climb. If you climb above the radar horizon, the S-400 sees you. If you stay low, the trees block your line of sight. Modern fighters like the F-35 solve this with data linking. A drone sees the target and passes the coordinates to the jet. The A-10C has data links, Link 16, but it lacks the stealth to get into the launch basket safely. Furthermore, the Maverick is an older missile. Russian active protection systems and electronic countermeasures are designed to confuse these types of seekers. The most effective weapon for the A-10 in Ukraine would likely be the GBU-39 small-diameter bomb. These are glide bombs. An A-10 could carry 16 of them. But to give a glide bomb range, you need altitude and speed. The A-10 is slow and cannot fly high. If an A-10 drops an SVB from low altitude, it doesn't glide very far. An F-16 flying at Mach 1.2 at 30,000 feet can toss an SDB 40 miles. An A-10 puts itself in danger just to deliver the same package. War is not just about combat, it is about maintenance. The A-10 is old. The last one was built in 1984. Every airframe in the US inventory has thousands of hours on it. They have cracks in the wings. They require specialized maintenance.
If you send A-10s to Ukraine, you aren't just sending planes. You have to send the unique 30mm ammunition, which is heavy and specific to that gun, spare TF-34 engines, hydraulic systems that are unique to Fairchild Republic designs, mechanics trained on 40-year-old analog-digital hybrid systems. Ukraine is currently trying to integrate F-16s, Mirages, and potentially Gripens. Adding another completely unique airframe with a unique supply chain creates a logistical tail that drags the force down. The Ukrainian Air Force is small. They have a limited number of pilots and a limited number of mechanics. Every hour spent training a pilot to fly an A-10, a plane with limited survivability, is an hour not spent training them to fly an F-16, a plane that can do SEAD, air-to-air, and anti-ship missions. Runway independence? One argument for the A-10 is that it can operate from rough forward airfields. It was designed to fly from the Autobahn. While true, the Su-25 can also do this. Ukraine already has a rough field attacker. They don't need another one. What they need is a platform that can push the Russian Air Force back, something with a powerful radar and long-range air-to-air missiles. The A-10 has no radar. It carries sidewinders only for self-defense. It cannot protect Ukrainian cities from cruise missiles. It cannot chase away Russian Su-35s. Is there any argument for the A-10? Yes, it comes down to mass and morale. The better-than-nothing argument: Ukraine is losing airframes. They have a finite number of Su-25s and MiG-29s. If the choice is no plane or A-10, the answer is obviously A-10. Even if used as a standoff missile truck behind the lines, firing Hydra rockets or Mavericks at breakthroughs, it adds volume of fire. The morale effect. There is a psychological impact to the A-10. For infantry on the ground, seeing that distinctive shape overhead is a morale booster. For the Russians, knowing the Warthog is in theater might force them to be more cautious with their armor movements. But morale doesn't stop an S-400 missile. The cruelest reality for the A-10 is that its job has been taken by a $500 drone. The first-person view drone is the new close air support. Precision. An FPV pilot can fly a drone into the open hatch of a tank. The GAU-8 is an area weapon, an FPV is a surgical weapon. Cost. An A-10 flight hour costs $20,000. An FPV drone costs $500. Risk. If an FPV drone is shot down, you grab another one from the box. If an A-10 is shot down, you lose a highly trained pilot and a strategic asset. The A-10 was built to kill tanks in an era before loitering munitions. Today, a squad of Ukrainian infantry with switchblades or PGMs can do the job of an A-10 without risking a pilot. So, would the A-10 change the war in Ukraine? No. In fact, it might hurt the Ukrainian war effort. It would consume precious pilot training hours. It would strain an already breaking logistics chain. And tragically, it would likely lead to the loss of many brave pilots. The A-10 is a gladiator. It was built for a specific arena, the Fulda Gap, under the cover of F-15s clearing the skies. Ukraine is not an arena, it is a meat grinder. The Russian air defense network is simply too dense. The A-10 relies on armor to survive bullets, but nothing survives a direct hit from a heavy SAM. The war in Ukraine is being decided by 1. Long-range precision fires, HIMARS, ATACMS, 2. Electronic warfare, jamming, 3. Drones, ISR and strike, and 4. Air defense, Patriot, IRIS-T. The A-10 contributes very little to any of these 4 pillars. It is a relic of a romanticized version of warfare that died the moment radar-guided missiles became cheap and ubiquitous. If we want to help Ukraine win the air war, the answer isn't the slow, low-flying Warthog. The answer is the SEAD, Suppression of Enemy Air Defenses Capable Fighter, the F-16 or F-35, that can kill the radars that make the skies so dangerous in the first place. The A-10 is a beautiful, terrifying machine. It deserves its place in history, but sending it to the Donbass would be sending it to its grave.
Yup, my name is James. This has been The Hidden Muster. I want to leave you with a question that challenges our nostalgia for this airframe. We love the A-10 because it represents the idea that a plane can be tough enough to survive anything. But in an age where a cheap missile can core a titanium bathtub from 10 miles away, do we need to accept that toughness is no longer a valid survival strategy in the sky? I'll see you in the comments.